Alright, in this video, I'm going to do a hands-on with the new Galaxy S23 series. So let's get right to it.
Okay, so this is the S23 Ultra, and as you can see, there's really not much of a difference compared to the S22 Ultra from last year. It basically looks identical to the S22 Ultra. From looking at it at first glance, you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between the two. And as you can see in the phone menu, it's running on Android 13 as well as One UI 5.1. But again, the screen size for the phone is pretty much the same as last year, 6.8 inches, as well as the display. So the display is going to give you a max brightness of approximately 1750 nits, just like last year. So really the only major differences between the S23 Ultra and the S22 Ultra are the camera and the chipset, which I'm going to talk about. So the Galaxy S23 Ultra series comes with the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, and as far as the camera is concerned, for this specific S23 Ultra, it comes with a 200 megapixel camera as opposed to a 108 megapixel camera that we saw on last year's phone. So again, the S23 Ultra also has the S Pen built into the phone, just like last year. You can use it for a variety of things, such as jotting things down, using it as a productivity tool. Not much of a difference there, just like last year. So when it comes to the camera, the major difference in this year's model is the 200 megapixel camera, whereas the S22 Ultra only had the 108 megapixel camera. So as you can see over here, after I finished taking the picture and the photo has finished processing, it is just incredibly detailed. If I zoom in, you can definitely see all the little details of the picture, all the little pixels in extreme detail compared to the 108 megapixel camera from last year. So you do have the option of taking pictures in the 200 megapixel mode if you choose to do so. But other than that, all the other modes are pretty identical to last year. So again, you have all the different camera modes, 4K at 60 or 30 or 8K at 24 hertz. You also have the option of doing quad HD video recording. Other than that, the other three cameras for the phone remain unchanged. So again, the 12 megapixel ultra wide, the 3 megapixel telephoto, as well as another 10 megapixel telephoto. Now, the selfie cam for the phone is actually only a 12 megapixel as opposed to the 40 megapixel from last year. But that still doesn't compromise the photo quality for the pictures. Samsung is just really great when it comes to cameras, so still a very respectable camera for the phone. But as far as the other modes are concerned, it is pretty identical to last year. And as you can see, I have the S22 Ultra on the right hand side and the S23 Ultra on the left hand side. And you can see that the modes and the camera viewfinder and the layout of the phone is really identical. Speaking of which, if we look at the two phones head to head, you can't really distinguish between the two phones. They are very identical to one another. However, I will say that the camera rings on the S23 Ultra are a little bit more perturbed and sticking out as opposed to the S22 Ultra. And I guess the S23 Ultra, you can't really see it from the camera, but it is a little bit more boxier in design compared to the S22 Ultra. But otherwise, everything else looks very incredibly identical to one another. So when it comes to the color options for this year, they didn't do anything dramatic, pretty standardized colors. You have green, you have lavender, you have cream, as well as phantom black. Now, the price for the phone still starts at $1,200, but this time around it's better because the base variant of storage is actually 256 GB of storage. Now, these are the S23 Plus as well as the S23 respectively. I'm not going to spend much time going over these because these are literally the same as last year. There's really not much of a difference except for the chipset, including the cameras. The cameras are also pretty much the same cameras as last year's. So the pricing for the S23 Plus is pretty much the same. It's $1,000 for the 256 GB of base variant, and as far as the S23, the regular one, it's $800 for the 128 GB of base variant.
Again, that was my brief video about the S23 series. I realize it's brief, but again, there's not much of a difference between last year's lineup and this year's lineup. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.